Purposely. Your life, God's purpose. Listen at purposely.com.
I'm Julie Lyles Carr. You're listening to the AllMomDoes podcast, part of the Purposely Podcast Network. And as I record this, we are moving quickly into summer. Let me tell you, where I live, it's felt like summer started a little early this year because it is already so hot. But we are in early days, and it got me thinking about what we do with kiddos when summertime comes. Now, you may be thinking this is an issue with just kids who are, say, elementary school age or junior high, but I have a little story to tell you. My sixth child is now in college, and she is currently still living with us while she is working through a couple of years of college. I had to laugh. She's had a stressful couple of semesters. She's done a great job. She's studied so hard. She's worked so hard. She could not wait to get done with this semester. She had said from the get that as soon as it hit summer, she was going to rest. So you can imagine that I got a little tickled when just a couple weeks after she finished her last exam, she started saying, "I'm feeling kind of restless. I sort of feel like I need something more to do. I feel like I need a project. I think I should take on some more hours at work. I am starting to feel kind of out of sorts." So even when somebody moves into later stages in their school career and summertime comes, it can feel a little discombobulating to not be on the schedule, to not be doing the things that you usually do when it comes to how you're used to running your days, even when you're at the college level. I love this verse from Proverbs 10:5. It says, "A wise son harvests in the summer. A disgraceful son sleeps right through the harvest." That's from Proverbs 10. It got me thinking, God created us to have seasons throughout the year. And even though I know that our school vacations and times like that were originally designed because we were a more agrarian society, meaning that we had our school calendar follow what was happening when it came to planting and harvesting and all those kinds of things, it still is a beautiful thing that it's not just a constant run when it comes to everything we're doing with our kids. Now, my in-laws were both professional educators. They were elementary school teachers and principals for their entire careers. And they certainly had times where school calendars were being adjusted, experimented with when they had year-round school, where kids would go to school for, say, 6 weeks and have 2 weeks off or things like that. Certainly, there are plenty of examples today of schools that don't exactly follow the traditional summer vacation kind of calendar. But for a lot of us, summer vacation's here, and that's exactly what we're experiencing. So how can we be wise? How can we harvest the summer, if you will, and make sure that our kids aren't sleeping right through it? Because I don't know about you, but when it comes to kids in the throes of moving into puberty stages and on, sleep has been a big thing around this place. I mean, sleep could be an absolute varsity activity when it comes to my kids in summertime. How do we make the most of summer while also embracing that it can be a time for rest? A time to take a breath, a time to slow down and have time with family. How can we have, if you will, a harvestful summer? For a lot of us, we already fill the calendars real fast when it comes to summer. We have the requisite vacations on the calendar where we're going to go see extended family, or we've already started going to VBS and having all those fun experiences that make up a lot of our summer memories ourselves from when we were kids. Day camp, summer school classes, tutoring, all that kind of stuff may already be filling your calendar. But for a lot of years, for our family, summer was when things really slowed down. We didn't necessarily travel a whole lot. We weren't doing a lot of expensive day camps and things like that. And for us, because we primarily homeschooled our kids, summer was definitely a time that I needed to take a minute, reorganize all of our school supplies, and figure out what we were going to be doing academically for the upcoming year. So, when it comes to thinking about how to fill those summer days, I have a few ideas. Some things that I wish I had done, some things I did do that I'm glad I did, some things that I didn't do, some things I would do differently that I wouldn't have added to the calendar. So I want to dive in with you on some things to think about when it comes to whatever you already have on your calendar, how to keep your kids happy and sure, a little busy, but also make sure there's room in there, like I said, for harvesting this summer, harvesting memories, harvesting skills, harvesting time together, harvesting rest, harvesting a change of pace. Now, one suggestion I have for you, if you've already got some road trips on the calendar, be sure that you go to wherever you get your podcasts. Yes, this is just going to be an absolute plug. But back last fall, my producer and I started a second podcast called God on the Go. God on the Go is really quick. The episodes are usually about 5 minutes. And there are several series that you can tap into. So everything from distractions to friendships to changes, things like that. And we take just a little bit of time to dive into those stories, to think through some discussion questions, to talk about some trivia that comes up around certain topics, things like that. It's a way that can help you and your kids, when you listen, begin important conversations. Have some time to ask some questions of each other about things that you want to know or things that you want to do. So check out God on the Go. That's a great resource for those road trips you're going to be on this summer. And I'll ask Rebecca to put those in the show notes. So check that out. All right. Those long summer days when you're at home and it feels just a little too hot to be outside, maybe you live in a part of the country where that's not the case. But I'm in Texas, and I can tell you that for me, June, July, August, I kind of act like that's my Texas winter, not exactly my summer. It's so hot and the mosquitoes are so big. And when our kids were younger, we actually ended up spending a lot of time indoors during the summer, which again, I know is not everybody's experience, but is something that for a lot of us in certain part of the countries, that's the truth. So this idea about being outside all the time during the summer, for some of us, that doesn't always work. So here's a way that I took advantage of that time during the summer when we were indoors, when it was just too hot to safely be outside because of the heat. I started thinking through a set of skills that I wanted my kids to know. I don't know if you've heard this stat before, but I think it's absolutely fascinating. At Ivy League schools, places like Harvard, Yale, all the way to schools that are not considered Ivy League, when kids are hitting the college and university campuses, guess what professors are saying they see as a big problem? Today's kids do not know how to do some basic life maintenance. They don't know how to do laundry. They don't know how to write a check. They don't know how to address an envelope. A lot of things that we take for granted that maybe our kids will just absorb by observing us, they're not getting. And I don't know about how you've operated as a mom, but in early days with my oldest kids, I was kind of wanting to do everything for them. I, for some reason, thought that that was part of my job, to be everyone's personal assistant, to be everyone's cleaner, to be everyone's laundry person. I took it all on. That lasted for a while. And then as the resentment and the fatigue and the doing it over and over and over thing began to get the better of me, I really needed to have a heart change. Now, do I always want to serve my family well? Of course. I think it's really important. It's important to me. Was it also important that I start to release that a little bit? Yes, absolutely. I wanted to make sure, not only for my own mental well-being, but for my kids, that they knew how to do some things. And frankly, by the time we got to kids 5, 6, 7, and 8, there was no way I could do it all. I really did need to teach and onboard my kids into basic life maintenance kind of stuff. Think through it for yourself. Does your kid know how to clean the toilet? Even if you have someone who comes alongside and helps with household chores, even if you've hired a cleaning team, Your kid is still likely going to need to know how to clean a toilet when they get out on their own. They may not have the budget to hire someone to do that. They need to know how. Do they need to know how to wash windows? Do they know how to do laundry? I had my kids start doing their own laundry while they were in mid-elementary school, middle school, somewhere in those ages, because I hit the point that trying to keep up with laundry for 10 people was truly something akin to like a 20-hour-a-week job. So my kids learned to do laundry earlier and earlier, younger and younger. Did they always do it perfectly? No. Did everything always get folded exactly the way I wished that it would? Again, no. Do my kids all know how to do laundry? Did they launch from this house knowing how to do that? Yeah. And one of the great times to teach some of those skills is during the summer. That's one of the things that you can harvest during summer, is to create a list of things that you for sure want your kids to know how to do when they head to college, when they head into their adult life, and begin instilling that now. Does it mean that they have to learn everything this summer? No, you can parse it out. You can make sure that there is a reasonable pace to it. After all, it wouldn't be fun to have a summer that was simply only chores. At the same time, be intentional with the extra time that you have this summer and figure out exactly what would be helpful for them to know. I learned a lot of this from my mom. During the summers, we had checkoff sheets, just like you might see on the back door of a bathroom at a fast food restaurant. We had a chart where we went through and checked off the things that she wanted us to do every day. Did I kind of hate it as a kid? Yeah, I kind of did. Was it also really helpful? Again, yes, it really, really was. As your kids are getting older, think about car maintenance. Do they know when they're supposed to have oil changes? Do they know some basic vehicle repair? Have you talked about the fact that if that little strange check engine light comes on, they should probably do something about that? You know, the moment to start teaching some of those skills is not when your kid is already studying for their driving test. You can begin having those conversations when they're 12, 13 years old. Begin showing them the ropes on those kinds of things. Allow your kids to see how you take care of bills. Show them what online banking looks like. These are just a few of the things that your child is going to need to know how to do in later high school and college. While you've got some time this summer, it's a fantastic way to make some of that time during those summer days part of the harvest. You can start younger than you think. They get it faster than you think. And here's the other thing that's really awesome. Your younger kids, when you're showing them some of these duties of adulthood, they're going to actually find it kind of cool. I know that might sound strange, but hear me out. I loved understanding more about my mom and dad's #adulting lives when it came to what it meant to run a home, take care of a business, take care of a vehicle. It was really cool to be invited into some of those spaces and to understand more the mechanics of how those things worked. And let me tell you this, I now have the advantage of this, which is sometimes it feels like a disadvantage, but there are times it very much feels like an advantage. I still have kids in the home, but I've got all these older kids who have already launched, like we talked about a few episodes ago when I talked about launching our older kids. For those kids who've already launched, they come back to me and say, I'm so glad that you had me do these things, because they report back to me, even in adulthood, a lot of their friends don't know how to do these things. So when they went on to set up their own homes, they knew how to do stuff, or they knew how to look it up. They knew how to find out how to do it, and they were motivated to do so. So that's one of the harvests that you can have this summer, where you intentionally teach a set of skills that you know your kids want to know. Of course, you're going to look at things that are age appropriate for them. You don't want things that are too complicated or could be upsetting or dangerous. But I do think you can start even younger than you think. 4 and 5-year-olds can sweep and use a broom and use a vacuum. 7, 8-year-olds, they can load a dishwasher. They can start doing laundry. Your kids are capable. It's a great thing for them to learn. Here's a statistic that's really important for me. Wow. It's still hard for me to believe, and yet I've seen it play out over and over. During the summer, our kids can lose up to 40% of the schooling, the retention that they should have from the school year before. Like I said, my in-laws were educators their whole careers, and this was something that they saw over and over, that the first couple of months of the new school year, they were simply needing to go back and reteach a lot of the things they had taught the previous school year. Now, one of my children is hearing impaired, and because we were homeschooling and because we continued to do therapy all through the summer with that child, her therapist really encouraged me to keep up with her academic rigors. I kept schooling her through the summers. I tried to make it fun. I tried to make it intentional and not take all day. But because we were having to make up for a lot of things for her, because of the time that it took to be in therapy, because of the time that it took to onboard her into written and spoken language, we needed to keep with it. We didn't have time for there to be a 40% slide back because we'd taken the entire summer off from anything academic. Because I started doing that with her, I actually started doing it with all of my kids. We continued to do math during the summer. We continued to work on certain spelling words or some history projects. Not anything that felt overly structured or like the entire day was being taken. But I wanted to make things easier on myself when we started into our more formal schooling in the fall, because I certainly didn't want to have to make up for a huge backslide in the things we had worked so hard on the year before. I want to encourage you, whether you're a homeschooler, public schooler, private schooler, whatever you're doing, keep up with those academic efforts. Even if it's just to help your child retain what they learned, even if you're not trying to make inroads into the next grade level. Take a day or so to review some of the stuff they were talking about in history when they finished up school at the end of the semester. Start the day with a math fact. Maybe learn a new word definition or vocabulary. Take a look at what their school books were doing, what their assignments were at the end of the year, and have some quizzes, like fun trivia kind of quizzes. If you can help them to be able to start the school year afresh, not from a place of having forgotten so much, but having kept some of the curriculum in front of them through the summer, it's going to make their entry into the school year in the fall so much simpler. I think this is particularly true if you have kiddos who struggle in school. Go ahead and give them the advantage of helping them retain as much as possible over the summer. Let them have a break. Don't make it rigorous. Don't have anybody in tears at the breakfast table over math facts. Hey, everybody needs a breath now and then from all that kind of scheduling and scholastic endeavor. At the same time, do them the favor of letting them have access to some of the school stuff they've been doing so that they can start out the school year in the fall feeling a whole lot more confident. It's probably one of the number one questions I get being a mom of 8 kids. And that question is, what on earth are y'all doing about college? And I can tell you, with 8 different kids, 8 different learning styles, 8 different ideas about what the kids want when it comes to their careers and all of the rest, college has been a big topic of conversation around here. Well, there is a university that I want you to know about because it just hits so many of the things that are really important when it comes to considering your kid's college education. George Fox University, it's the #1 private school in Oregon. It's a Christian university. It's located in the heart of the Pacific Northwest. And what's so great is in addition to a top-notch education, students have the opportunity to grow and deepen their faith, and they can learn in this really pivotal time in their lives who God made them to be. I mean, let's face it, we need more people coming out of our universities who know how to be leaders and how to be leaders with character. And George Fox University offers more than 60 academic majors. And that includes a nationally recognized engineering program, a nursing program. It allows your student to pursue their passions and prepare for the calling that God has for them. And let's not forget about fun when it comes to college. George Fox University students have a great student life. There are weekly campus events, there's chapel, there's service opportunities. There are 23 NCAA Division III athletic teams. Here's something that is important to me. There's a study abroad opportunity. So if your student wants to go and experience life somewhere else for a semester, they can do that. There's outdoor recreation because, of course, we're talking about Oregon, so gorgeous. George Fox University could be just the perfect fit for your student as you are looking into college, career, and all that goes beyond. George Fox University, where your student will learn and thrive in the center of it all. When my kids were younger, we spent so much time. I was so hard over on the library. That is something I want to put in your wheelhouse for this summer. Maybe it's something you already do all the time. And yet, it's fascinating to me the number of people who don't take advantage of their local library. The library has all kinds of summer programs, incentives for reading and for goals for certain books, all that kind of stuff. My kids were so motivated as readers because of the library's summer programs. We set reading goals. We made it a ritual to go every 2 weeks and get fresh books and talk about things that we were looking for. It's just free. It's free. It's right there for you. And also take a look. I know in my community, our library is available through Libby, which is an online library system. And so we also have access to all kinds of videos and ebooks and audiobooks, all that kind of stuff. So even if you're not wanting to make a weekly or every other week trek to the library, you can still download all kinds of great content from your library for free if your local library is associated with that system. Here's another thing I think that's really important when you think about utilizing the library and setting some reading goals for the summer. Now, I know that for some reason, a lot of times when we think of reading, we're only thinking about eyes on the page. But I want to encourage you, if you have a kid who's more auditory, take advantage of audiobooks. Audiobooks absolutely count. The whole purpose of exposing your kids to new books, new stories, new ways of hearing that language, reading that language, is for further development in their vocabulary and their own understanding of their own writing and storytelling, all that kind of stuff. And there are kids who simply are going to be a lot more open and a whole lot more excited about reaching reading goals if you will utilize audiobooks. Within my own kids, I certainly have kids who are much more attuned to audiobooks and kids who absolutely want, as they say, real books with real paper. They don't even like ebooks. My husband is a huge audiobook reader. He somehow is able to listen to audiobooks at twice the speed. That just instills all kinds of anxiety in me. I don't exactly quite understand how he does it. I still love to visually read the written word. That's just more of how I'm able to take in that content. But there needs to be a whole lot of honor in this library reading goal idea for the summer, in that harvest of reading, to let someone operate in the learning style that is best for them. Now, of course, if you have a child that you're trying to hit some reading markers for them over the summer because of scholastic requirements, there may be times that you need to insist that your child look at something, read something off the printed page. But when it comes to making the library and reading goals for the summer fun, something that's not connected to expectations for school in the fall, let them hear. Let them hear it aloud. There are great audiobooks out there that are going to help your kid appreciate books, and they're going to be able to appreciate it through their ears, even if eyes happens to be your preference. A few years ago, we had an epic trip. 4 of my kids and I, we still talk about this. It was spring break, and we wanted to harvest the time of spring break. We didn't have enough margin to go anywhere. We certainly didn't want to try to drive to one of the Texas beaches because, I don't know if you've heard this or not, but Texas beaches during spring break are absolute collegiate chaos. So we weren't going to do that. I came up with the brilliant idea that we would drive over to Houston. It's about 2.5, 3 hours from here because Houston has an amazing museum district. I thought it would be great. We would go during spring break, we would harvest the time, and we would go to the History Museum. Well, it didn't go exactly as planned because I figured that people would be all out and about, not thinking about museums. And instead, we happened to enter the gauntlet of the Houston Museum District at the height of traffic, no parking, nothing. When we finally found a parking space after 2 hours, we finally got into the museum. There was only enough time left to go to the gift shop. So that's what we did. And the nice thing at a museum gift shop, you kind of get a snapshot of a lot of the displays that are probably inside the museum. That's one way to kind of enjoy the exhibits without actually seeing the exhibits because they sell all kinds of souvenirs and swag about the exhibits. My kids still laugh about that trip. But I do want to encourage you. Okay, maybe over the summer, it wouldn't be quite as bad. Take advantage of local museums and historic sites. Do a staycation in your own town. It is so fascinating to me. I do live in a really cool city that I love, and there are still so many things that I have not done. What is it about living somewhere that you simply don't see your own city as a tourist would? You don't take advantage of some of the things that are available. During the sleepier days of summer, be sure and look. If you go to your county's website, your state's website, you will likely find some things you didn't even know were out there. I also have to give a big shout out for some of the random stuff that you can do. For example, there's a place up in Dallas that one of my daughters has been to. It's a cockroach circus kind of museum. And she said it's absolutely fascinating. Very much off the beaten path, but the pictures are really fascinating. All these little cockroaches dressed up in little costumes and held within glass cases. Okay, I get it. It's not everybody's cup of tea. However, there are all kinds of great adventures to be had with your kids when you think a little bit, outside the box. Just check out some things that you might not normally look at. Be a tourist in your own town. Now, here's the thing that I really want to leave you with when it comes to a summer harvest. Like I said on that verse, a wise son harvests in the summer, a disgraceful son sleeps right through the harvest. Now, this brings me to something that is all too common to the parental ear during the days of summer, and that is when your kid starts telling you that they're bored. Because we're worried our kids will be bored, we often try to schedule any kind of free time because we don't want them to be bored. Listen, there's nothing wrong with being bored. There's a difference between being lazy and being bored, just like there is a difference between resting and laziness. Here's what's great about creating enough margin, enough free time this summer for your child to actually engage that sense of boredom. Clinical psychologist Stephanie Lee says that it's okay for kids to be bored, that in fact, boredom actually helps your kids develop some really great skills. When our kids have to be faced with that feeling of boredom and we let it sit there, we don't try to distract them away from it. It helps them build a tolerance when things don't always go exactly the way they expected. It helps break off this expectation that they should always be entertained. This is the quote that she gives, and I think it's really great. Again, this is psychologist Stephanie Lee. She says, boredom might not be super distressing, but it's not fun. Life requires us to manage our frustrations and regulate our emotions when things aren't going our way. And boredom is a great way to teach that skill. She also shares that it helps kids develop planning strategies because they have to come up with some ideas on their own. They have to learn flexibility, organizational skills for their time. These are things that are so important for them to get. And here's the thing. We're often the ones doing that for them and not giving them that time to figure those things out. I mean, let's face it. How often do your kids look to you to be the one who's the keeper of the schedule, the person with all the information about where they need to be next? How often are your kids looking to you to be the ones to organize their play dates and come up with all of their extracurriculars and all that kind of stuff? Eventually, as we look toward launching our kids into adulthood, we have to pass that mantle to them. And if you think you're going to do it all in one go the minute they turn 18, that's not really fair. One of the early places we can begin this, one of the harvests of summer, should be allowing enough margin, enough free time for our kids to, in fact, get a little bored. Because when we're willing to sow into a field of boredom, the crop that begins to grow over time are kids who know how to manage their emotions, who know how to sit with their boredom, who know how to navigate when things aren't exactly as expected, who don't expect to be constantly entertained, who learn how to come up with activities and how to apply themselves. See, there is a big difference between boredom and laziness. Boredom actually does something for your kids. All right, those are the harvests of summer that I want you to think about, all of them strategic, all of them doing things for your kids that ultimately are going to help them when they launch from your home. I know that we see a lot the memes that say 18 summers, that's all I've got. I understand the temptation to just completely soak in all kinds of entertainment, amusement park, vacation kind of stuff when it comes to summer. I get it. But there are also some amazing things that can be sown during those 18 summers that then help your child at the 18th summer launch out feeling capable, feeling informed, feeling like they know how to do some basic things in life. They've got a skill set. They know how to manage their time a little better. They feel prepared to head into the next school season. They're excited about knowing their local town and the things that are available. And they know that boredom is nothing to be scared of, but can be a really great gift. Okay, I'm in there with you. Summer's here. I hope you have a great one. I hope the harvest of your time with your kids is really powerful. And I hope it's also a time for you to take a pause and get a little rest from the usual hurry and scurry of the school year as well. Hey, do me a big favor. Would you grab the link to this episode and send it to someone who you know is looking into how to make this summer a little more endurable? Be sure and send it to them. That's one of the best thank yous you can give us. Rebecca puts together show notes every week, so you can check there for a transcript of the episode, links, all that kind of stuff. I love it when you come and say hi to me over on the socials. I'm usually on Instagram the most. You can find me there at Julie Lyles Carr. And of course, All Mom Does is all over the place on the web. There's a blog. We're on the socials everywhere. We love hearing from you there. And I'll see you next time on the AllMomDoes podcast.